Happy day everyone. Today in this video we are going to see about a new chapter which is Cell, the Unit of Life from class 11. We have covered the previous chapter in a simple way and I have given tricks for each and every chapter. Please check out the old playlist. And from this video we are going to introduce a new concept, that is, after completing each and every page of an video, I will be giving you some set of questions like that. So once this page is completed, you can try answering this question, and if you are unable to do, you can revise it from the NCERT point of view and then you can do it. Once it is done, you can resume the video and pause on to the next page. So in this way you will be completing the chapter with me, like instead of seeing whole video and you will forget the chapters what like concept what we are discussing. Instead of that, just see one video and revise it in the NCERT and try answering these questions. These are very simple questions. More than n number of questions can be taken in a single page, but I have given few set of questions only for the practice. So hope this will be helpful for you. Let's get into the video. To start about what is a cell. A cell is the smallest unit which can be show independent existence. So that concludes that anything less than a cell cannot be independent existence. You are getting the point, right? So to talk about the unicellular existence, we have yeast, which is a unicellular organism. These are the example, and it should have the essential functions of life. It can perform the essential functions of life. Obviously in case of yeast, this is a unicellular organism, which means it's made up of only single cell. Still it can perform all the essential functions of life. Now to talk about cell theory. Before talking about the cell theory, the Skildon and Swan firstly find out two things. That is, Skildon said that plants and animals are made up of different kind of cells and these cells form the tissue. And Swan found out that there is a membrane covering the cell and the body of an organism is made up of cell and product of cell. These are acceptable, right? And this membrane is nowadays known as the plasma membrane. And together, after finding this, they proposed a theory called cell theory. In the cell theory, Rudolf Virchow made some modifications, okay? Because whenever some theory happens, we have some changes, we have some improvement. Like the way Rudolf Virchow modified the cell theory. He said that the cell divides and new cells are formed from the pre-existing cells. Because in the old theory, they didn't explain how the new cells are formed. So he gave a conclusion, the cell divides and new cells are formed from the pre-existing cells only. And based on this, the cell theory have two main points. One is cells and products of cell. It is an organism is made up of cell and the product of cells. And the new cell arises from the pre-existing cell. This is the concept of cell theory. Now, we will talk about an overview of a cell. Mainly, the brain of the cell is the nucleus, right? And this nucleus may be of two types. Based on the nucleus, the organism are of two types. One is if the nucleus is membrane bound, that is if it is covered with nucleus, it is called as eukaryotic. But if it is lacks the membrane, then it is called as the prokaryotic. So this is the difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic animal. Nucleus contains chromosome and chromosomes contain genetic material. This is the basic concept, as you all know. Now we have cytoplasm. In the cell, cytoplasm will be there. In the cytoplasm, we have this another organelles. So the cytoplasm is the semi-fluid matrix, okay? Matrix or like area which covers matrix, and this is the main arena of cellular activity. This is where the cellular activities happen and the chemical reactions happens within the cell in the cytoplasm, which keeps the cell as living state, okay? This is an important point. To keep the cell in a living state, chemical reactions happen that takes place in the cytoplasm. And the eukaryotic, we talked the eukaryotic or membrane bound organelles. The eukaryotic will be having the membrane bound organelles. In case of nucleus also we talked, right? So what are these membrane bound organelles? Let's see. Endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, lysosomes, mitochondria, microbodies and vacuole. So which means in the prokaryotic it lacks all these organelles, right? Eukaryotic means it contains membrane bound organelles and membrane bound nucleus. So these are the membrane bound organelles. So in case of prokaryotic, it will lack all these organelles. And we will have something about called rhizosome. It will be present in both eukaryotic and prokaryotic. And these rhizosomes are seen in cytoplasm, chloroplast in case of plants, mitochondria and rough endoplasmic reticulum. We will talk about the types of endoplasmic reticulum in the further pages. Now in the animal cells we have something called as centriole, which is not present in the plant. About this centriole also we will talk in depth, and these centrioles are mainly helpful in the terms of cell division, and it is a non-membrane bound organelle. And as we all know, the cells are of different types and different size. Let's see what is the smallest cell. The smallest cell known till now is the mycoplasma, and the largest one is the ostrich cell, and these are like measurements of bacteria and RBC. So try to have a look at all these values. So in the first, we have discussed what is a cell and the topics on cell theory and the overview of cell. Now we will discuss the questions. Cell and product of cells, that is, the organism is made up of cell and product of cell. Who given this statement? The next question, what is the smallest cell known? What is the length of RBC? That is the chemical reaction takes place in the cell. Name the membrane bound organelles of the cell. Centriole is a membrane bound or non-membrane bound organelle, as well as vacuole is a membrane bound or non-membrane bound organelles. If you are able to answer these questions, let's get into the next page. Now we will start the discussion with prokaryotic cells. We all discussed about what is the prokaryotic cells, which is not having the well-defined nucleus or not a membrane bound nucleus. Okay, so some examples of these prokaryotic cells will be bacteria, blue-green algae, mycoplasma, and pleuropneumonia-like organism. This is the expansion of this pleuropneumonia-like organism. Now, so whenever we say prokaryotic cell, bacteria is the common example or like worldwide example. This differs in this. We have 4 types based on the shapes. What are they? Bacillus, coccus, vibrio, and spirilla. In case of bacillus bacteria, we have rod-shaped cells, and in case of coccus, spherical. In case of vibrio, it will be in comma, and in case of spirillum, it will be of spiral. Okay, these are the 4 types of bacteria depending on their shape. Now, what are the unique characteristics of this prokaryotic cells while comparing with the eukaryotic cell? It has cell wall and cytoplasm and no well-defined nucleus, and it has a naked genetic material as the nucleus is not bound by any membrane, and it has some extra circular DNA which is called as the plasmid. Outside of the genomic DNA there will be a small circular DNA which is called as the plasmid. It gives unique characters such as resistant to antibiotics. These kind of unique characteristics are given by plasmids, okay, which is a small circular DNA. And apart from that, the prokaryotic cells have ribosomes, inclusions, mesosomes. These mesosomes are specialized differentiant form of cell membrane. Okay, these are present in the prokaryotic cell. Now, we talked about the different types of bacteria and we have 2 types of bacteria, which is gram positive and gram negative. This is based on whether they take up the gram strain. If they take up the gram strain, okay, these are some scientific way of testing some organisms. Like for each specific organism, we will some kind of strain, and based on their reaction, we will be dividing it. So one is gram positive and gram negative bacteria. Okay, like have this in mind. Now we are going to discuss about the cell envelope under this modification. This cell envelope contains of 3 layers. Okay, what are they? Glycocalyx, cell wall, and plasma membrane. These 3 acts as a single unit separately, but together, it acts as a single unit together. Okay, so what are the 3 layers? Glycocalyx, cell wall, and plasma membrane. And the glycocalyx is the outer one. This glycocalyx is of 2 types. Either if it is of loose sheath, it is called as the slime layer. If it is of thick and tough sheath, and it is called as a capsule. So what are the types of glycocalyx? It can be of loose and it is called a slime layer, and it can be thick and tough and it is called as the capsule. Right. Now we will see some of the function. To talk about the some function of the cell wall, this part it gives the shape of the cell. So the shape of the cell is decided by the cell wall, and it will give the structural